So the person I'm going to talk to here for a few minutes is a gentleman by the name of John Cullom. And John is the CEO and founder of Northcrft Analytics, which is a company whose mission is to bring to the next generation tools and management techniques that are used in the business to the IT organizations that build and nurture them. So, John, thank you again for being here today.
Great. Yep, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what I have here is, there's a few questions I've been asking people, and I'll just, throw these questions out to you. And the first one was basically, within the value formula itself, there's 5 components. There's vision, alignment, leverage, uniqueness, and execution. There's also a discussion at the beginning of the book on what value is and doing more with less, that concept. And also at the end talks more about, synergy, everything working together. But of the components that we covered, those various things that we covered within the workshop that you attended, which of those kind of stood out to you, or which one did you feel appealed to you or your organization the most, or perhaps maybe provided the most value to your organization?
Right. No, that's a good question. It's certainly in multiple parts, right? It's a lot of the presentation in the beginning worked with us to talk about our vision, and we're very kind of focused on a specific place, and we know that the IT shop itself has brilliant people in it, but they haven't been exposed to a lot of the advanced management techniques, and they often don't get a lot of the same kind of tools that line of business gets. But I think the workshop really helped us try to boil that vision down and create a clearer message about it. The alignment around our operations, when we were talking about that as well. I would say we have a lot of marketing effort, but we don't necessarily have a lot of marketing focus. So trying to get alignment with specific customers, where they're looking, how to communicate that vision out to them, and why that vision's important to them, right?
Right.
That's kind of a key thing for us. And I think the thing that really remained for me out of the workshop, not to jump to E, but the execution part about it, there was a lot of how to break down blocking and tackling. How do we actually get this out into the marketplace? What kind of tasks do we need to do? What objectives are we trying to set? And how do we work that into the meetings and structure those more effectively? And I think that the workshop and the book and the techniques really helped the organization focus on putting structure around, when we get together, what are we trying to achieve? Is this one of our objectives? How are we going to execute on it? And how do we get that done in an efficient manner or in a direct manner, which is often the same thing.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you, John. There are a lot of, as I kind of point out, there are a lot of things that are out there that people can, embrace and utilize to help them do things better. What was it that you felt with your exposure now to the value formula? What makes it unique in its approach, or what made it more effective to you, or what was it about it that appealed to you?
Right. So, excuse me. I'm exposed to, a lot of sort of general frameworks, and what becomes very difficult in those is to say, this framework works for your organization because, and a lot of the time, I think because those frameworks are not derived from people that have been out in the field, you get a lot of consultancy stuff, and, hey, I've been a consultant, it's no sin. But I think that this framework is clearly developed out of a deal of experience at large organizations, seeing the real kind of problems that people have in a practical, real world sense. You really get that kind of feel around that framework. And we just frankly found it more applicable and practical to, what we were actually doing in individual meetings, in how we want to structure ourselves. So, I think that that's the thing that stuck out to me, as that's not what I typically get out of digging into a different way to structure your business. right? So I hope that gives you some idea of the question, but that was the most striking thing to me.
That's great. Thank you for that feedback. That is kind of in a sense, some of the other folks that we've been talking to, that's kind of there's a review of the book recently on Amazon that said, the book is easy to read, easy to understand, easy to apply, which was to me, that was the intent. That was, the goal that I was trying to get to, and it seems that has been received that way. So one of the things that that the value formula tries to help people do is to really kind of unveil what are those game changers, those wildly important goals, those big things that organizations really need to focus on to make sure they get done. Since the workshop, have you done some thought around that, or has that exposure helped you accomplish or at least focus on one or two of your highest priorities? And if so, how did you do that?
Yeah, no, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Right. So, I think, for our particular organization, we have a lot of good content. We have a lot of good technology. And our really wildly important goal is how we're going to communicate that, and how are we going to touch all of the people specifically that are actually going to need this. And it may not be wildly important for every organization, but it really got us to focus on, our outreach and building the infrastructure around, say, email marketing, LinkedIn campaigns, a lot of experimentation, implementing a CRM and getting kind of HubSpot going and structuring all that so that things can be automated. We're lean and mean, so it's everything that we do has to be able to be automated and repeated in order to reach out. We don't have enough people to touch everybody. And we've built up a lot of that infrastructure, I think, since we've met you. That for us has been a wildly important goal. And frankly, it's only been a few months. So, but we've made progress down that path by kind of focusing the efforts there.
That's outstanding. I appreciate that. So just to kind of wrap things up here, is there any other point about the value formula, or how you feel like may have impacted you and or your organization, that you feel might be important to people who are attending this webinar?
What I would say is it's important to get the organization to look up and think abstractly and rally around strategic goals from time to time. It really kind of brings people together and energizes everyone. The danger in that is when you have a bad experience with one of those seminars, that it can suck the energy out and um, uh, start a vicious cycle of not devoting your energy to that. In the kind of value formula, but in the webinar, what we really, I think, is going to be powerful is it gets people in that you feel like you've had a productive time in the management experience, thinking, getting yourself back into, I'm going to devote myself to the science of management, which is, a lot of the reason that we all got into this in the first place. Is there are revolutionary thoughts out there. When we bring those out to people, it can change an organization of tens of thousands of people. Get back in touch with that, right? And it really helps you take that energy back into the work that you do. So and I think that experience was very much what we had in the webinar. So
Very good, very good. Thank you, John. So like I said, we're just kind of like wrap up here. If there's any other thoughts that you want to share or whatever, we can, the challenge that Alan and I are going to have is, how do we edit these down so that, because I mean, there's, as Alan mentioned, we had a lot of just great input, and yours included. It's been very humbling to kind of hear the impact that this has had on certain organizations. A gentleman yesterday was talking about how he actually uses in meetings the acronym VALUE, and as he's talking to people, he'll write down questions or like, well, that sounds like that's kind of falls in this category, or that sounds like it falls in this category. So and other people have used it as kind of even as a roadmap So it's interesting that once something gets out there, people kind of like adopt it and adapt it to how they want to operate. But yeah, it's been very eye-opening for me as the author, the kind of person that brought this into into being. And I don't take I'm very candid about, I don't there's nothing original in this. It's just, how it's structured and just, personal anecdotes and things like that that may be unique. But yeah, so it's like I said, it's very gratifying. So I appreciate your taking the time to share your thoughts this morning.
Oh yeah, no, it's my pleasure. So yeah, no, I think it's great work on it. So.